The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Hey, Tom, you're on the radio show. Good morning, thank you. It's 8:31. Tom. Did we lose Tom?
No, I'm here.
You're on the air, sir.
Okay, thank you. Joel, good morning. I read it with great interest. Paul Kengor.
Yes.
Book, The Communist, Part 1.
Yeah. Very good.
Davis. All right. Tell us about Jarrett and Axelrod's connection to Obama and the White House. People don't even know about that, who Axelrod really is, and Jarrett.
You're talking about Valerie Jarrett plus the influence of her father, too. That's important.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thanks for the question. Well, David Axelrod grew up in New York City. Both his parents were Communist Party USA members. His mother was a communist journalist, just as Obama's father was a communist journalist for PM Magazine in New York. And Axelrod's father was a member of the Communist Party. Now go over to Valerie Jarrett. Her father-in-law was Vernon Jarrett, who was a Communist Party USA member and a colleague of Obama's father at the Chicago Defender. So we have, you can just imagine.
When you say father, you're talking about Frank Marshall Davis.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, go
Frank
ahead.
Marshall Davis.
Go ahead.
So just imagine, let's say the year is 2002, and Obama is a state senator, and there he is with two of his best buddies, two other red diaper babies in 2002, saying, well, what can we do to further this agenda? And they say, well, why don't we try to get you to run for this Senate seat, and then we'll see what happens after that. So this hardcore ideological group out of Chicago, these Marxists, within 6 years after this conversation that Obama lost a a congressional seat to Bobby Rush, the amazing thing is that in 6 years they were able to infiltrate the White House without any of this information being made public. It's just a shocking development. Some people describe it as a coup, how these people could have come from such a committed ideological background in communism, and no one was able to even know it.
What I find interesting, and by this is Peter, Tom, if you read the propensities of everything that's out there, and then you take these accepted biographies, whether it's Moranis or Obama himself, or things that these people, A Remarkable Woman, I think was that book about his mother, they are provable to be lies. They are not true stories. And so if you say to somebody, do you really believe that Barack Obama, at 2.5 years of age, give or take, maybe 3, went to the airport in Honolulu and hugged Daddy goodbye and Mommy, Mrs. Obama, and of course she never was married to the guy and leaves. Now, whether he was abusive or not, they never lived together. How would she know he was abusive? He kept his apartment. She stayed on with her mother and father, and then she splits. Now, one of the questions I've asked Joel is to leave the Rock, leave Hawaii, when her dad's working in a furniture store. Big Stan's working. They call him Gramps. He's selling furniture, and Toot's working as a bank teller. Now, how did they get the dough up? And I'm asking this of Joel, to send her back to Seattle, enroll her in night school. We know they paid babysitters. I mean, this is all evidentiary. There's paperwork that makes this case. Joel, where'd they get the dough to do that?
I think that this is not an area that has a great deal of suspicion. I'll tell you why. Because they just came out of Washington State, so she probably got in-state tuition while she was there.
Regardless, where'd they get the money?
And it was an only child, of course, so they were able to save up some money. I do not believe that Stan, as I show in my film, was actually a furniture salesman. Okay. All the evidence shows he was working for the CIA for many years.
Right.
The mother worked in a bank, which was a decent salary. Mm-hmm. And don't forget, this little plan to send her off to college for 4 years at the University of Washington in Seattle blew out after about a year and a half.
Yeah, when she comes back, right.
Maybe they did run out of money and couldn't sustain it. So
but
that's possible.
There are other people that say that she only returns when Barack Sr. does leave.
Oh, there's no question. That's in evidence that the Kenyan got the scholarship to Harvard, which he had applied for a visa extension, not a green card, and he was off the island by the time she came back a year and a half later.
And Barack then, when he senior goes to Harvard, he does then get married. He marries another woman, even though he already is married back in Kenya, and he takes her back to Kenya with him, right?
Correct. Now, I'd like to point out that there is no Barack Obama Senior. We often refer to him as Senior.
You're right.
There is no Senior because there's no Junior.
Okay, well said. But I'm saying it just for, so people can follow along.
I know, but just it's a major point that they called him Barack Obama the Second, which means another person. It's not the son of.
Yeah, I thought somebody had to be dead before you can pick up the deuce or something. But all those things aside, you're right. I do take that back.
All right.
All right. So having said that, I come back to Tom the caller. Tom, Tom's gone. We lost Tom's call. But why can't people again come to terms with this? We just put up your work on 710knus.com, Dreams from My Real Father. I'm puzzled at this because, I know people saying, well, my dad, doesn't look like me. Hell, in most cases, we really do look like our parents, except when we used to say it was the milkman, right?
Right. As I was trying to tell that gentleman that we know that Obama's story is false, whether you must have DNA, like O.J. had to have his DNA,
right.
Before you want to admit that Davis is the father, is irrelevant. What we do show in the film, and what is evident from Obama's policies, is that Frank Marshall Davis, who is a Communist Party propagandist, a committed Stalinist and Marxist, anti-white hater of America, is the man who raised Obama by his own admission from age 9. And the ideological mirror of Obama is not a goat herder from Kenya. It's an anti-white Marxist who believes in destroying the American traditions, American way of life, and replacing it with a socialist Marxist society.
Has anyone, as a question right before the hard break, has anyone ever been able to find anybody that was a classmate, a fellow student, a roomie, lived in the same building as Barack Obama, Senior, who ever said they met Stanley Ann Dunham?
I did speak to a friend of the Kenyan in one of the foreign students that studied with him in Hawaii. He's 80 years old. I talked to him very recently, and he confirmed to me that he never knew of Ann Dunham, that the Kenyan was married or that he had a child. It was never even heard of this. He was shocked.
They can't find anybody, right?
He was shocked to hear this, and this is something that David Moranis also interviewed these people, and they told him, all the friends of the Kenyan said, we never heard he ever got married.
But Barack Obama tells you that they had the happy household, mommy, daddy, and him, and they never admitted that the place that she goes to live after the birth is that place that is rented by Gramps and Toot, and that makes that crazy, bizarre part of the Bill O'Reillys, and I saw the the announcement in the newspapers. It doesn't add up, does it?
It doesn't add up, and it's just that's just one small part of the false narrative to cover an ideological Marxist lifestyle and upbringing with something generic that you can hide it with. So when you try to get elected, you say things like, I'm going to have a transparent administration, I'm going to reduce the deficit. You can say all these things, and people might believe you. If they know your real background, they would know that you're lying. Hang
on, sir, if you would. Hard break time. We have full lines. And again, now up on 710knus.com, you can see much, again, of Mr. Gilbert's work. Take a look at those three pictures of Barack Obama and the man who people call Barack Obama Sr. and Frank Marshall Davis. You can do so at 710knus.com. Make up your own mind. January the 10th, our guest is filmmaker, historian Joel Gilbert. We are coming up on time with full lines, so we're going to come back with this. But I have to ask you, I know just because of private conversation, you got a lot of stuff back up in the pipe. What are we going to see and what are we going to hear next?
Well, got a couple things in the works. I do have a new film project that's going to go much deeper, not only into Obama's personal background, but ideologically, the entire movement that has been going on, really all the way back to 1917, this idea of a socialist society and how it's failed again and again and again miserably. It's led to poverty and starvation, and how this movement is making a comeback in America simply because today's socialists simply do not want to admit or recognize the failures of socialism and communism, and how it suppresses production, it suppresses activity, no one wants to work, and then the entire society is poor and worse off. You still have people like Bill de Blasio being elected and saying if we just instead of trying to solve problems like with education or how to get things better, their solution to every problem is, well, let's take more money from people that are productive and throw it into this rat hole, and somehow if I'll be elected and I'll make your lives better. It's been proven again and again to be a complete fantasy for illiterate children, yet they still pursue this ideology.
I've had some pretty good conversations here the last couple of days. One guy is a writer, and the other guy was a talk show host, Hugh Hewitt, and they believe that there's a bright, shiny future. I don't. I believe that the course of events, and of course when you talked about, socialism in Europe and the stuff that was presented in this country after the Bolsheviks, was that everything was going to be fine and we could take care of everything. What we really needed to do was, own the railroads or seize the means of production, or the kinds of things that were taking place in Soviet Union, and the Hungarians gave a shot at it. And I have a kind of a dismal view of these characters and what they are capable of doing and what they'll do next. Where are you on that, Joel?
I'm with you, Peter. The idea of a socialist utopia where everyone can do as much as they can and get everything they want is a fantasy. It's impossible. That's why utopia, the word utopia in Latin, means no place.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
The road to no place is going to lead to something horrible, not to something good.
And it's not new. I would take it back before 1917, but that aside, when I look at the nation and I see how many people have become dependent on the welfare of the state, the so-called welfare state, for food, and Obamacare, and this is my broken record. Does anybody? I guess there's plenty of people out there that believe that Obamacare is about delivering better health care to you and your family, or that gun control is about guns, or any of these kinds of things. And it's absolutely not true. It's part of the same slippery slope that we have witnessed again and again and again. And somebody made a remark that the only place that communism remains alive in the world today is the Democratic Progressive Party and in universities and colleges. What do you do with that?
Well, they have, since these characters, the SDS and the Weather Underground, were defeated and their ideology failed miserably, they went into education, they went into the institutions, journalism, entertainment, to the point that they are now controlling the agenda. So all these things you mentioned, to help people with their health care, to make things safer with gun control, these are simple cover stories, but the reality is these are socialist tools to eliminate the middle class
it's freedom and power.
Free market.
Yeah. Listen, we're out of time. We'll talk again next week. Your work's up on the website as always, Joel. Thank you very much for taking calls and being part of our morning. Thank you, sir.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.